Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My sibling and I had an amazing bond. We were like best friends and shared everything with each other. Our bond was this strong since the longest, and I thought nothing would get between us. Girl problem, at least. Of course, like any other siblings, we would fight a lot. We would argue, make each other cry, but then I always knew there was a coming back from all of those stupid arguments over clothes, movies, shows, friends, and food. I knew regardless of whatever happened between us, we would be able to combat it all and grow together stronger than ever. I guess I was all wrong because now that I think about it, it feels like our bond was as fragile as a piece of glass. One strong force, and it all just shatters. That is how our relationship went south as my brother met his now wife, Lillian. My brother met Lillian at a bar when we were in college. She was there with her friend group, and my brother and I were there catching up with our high school friends. Well, I guess my brother and her had some sort of love at first sight kind of thing because the moment they saw each other, my brother approached her and they just talked all night. Surprisingly, my brother wasn't the only one who had found love that night because I came across Jeremy there. Jeremy was there with Lillian and her friend group. So when my brother and Lillian began talking, our groups kind of merged. Jeremy and I started to talk from there since him and I both were alone and quiet. Well, eventually, Lillian and my brother began dating immediately. However, Jeremy and I kind of took things slow at our own pace. Although our relationship wasn't like a whirlwind romance like the one between Lillian and my brother, it was what I thought a quiet kind of love. But unfortunately, that simply wasn't the case. It was far from it, and you all soon will know why. About 4 years had passed since the four of us were in our respective relationships. Lillian and my brother's bond grew stronger, and I thought so had Jeremy and mine. We had become sort of good friends too, like a small friend group. So I thought, hey, Lillian must like me, or, well, at least find me tolerable. Oh boy, I was so wrong. You see, my brother and Lillian had thrown a party for their engagement. It was a huge deal because they had rented a big house and invited everyone from our high school and college there. My brother, Lillian, and I, being from the same university, this meant that it was like a small get together. So obviously, I was extremely excited for this entire ordeal. I got ready, brought my brother and Lillian a gift, and got there with Jeremy. Little did I know the gift that Lillian was going to give me tonight would take the piece of cake. Well, the party starts and it's a blast. It feels like I'm back in college again because we're there partying like crazy. A lot of alcohol is involved and there are so many people present. This caused my brother, Lillian, and Jeremy to get separated. So, in the middle of the party, I decided that I needed to find at least one of them and start looking for them in one of the many rooms. Eventually, I stumble across this room with the door half open and hear Lillian's voice. I think this is great. I'll have some company now. So when I'm just about to open the door, I hear my name being said, followed by a group of people chuckling. I kind of just stop there for a second and try to hear what they're talking about. And oh boy, being dumbfounded would be an understatement because I find myself standing there, hearing my soon to be sister in law talking about how good it feels to sleep with my boyfriend and how Jeremy is with me just so that he can get a chance with her. She also talks about how she had been sleeping with a couple of my brother's friends, taking their names out specifically. It all made sense because she was really close to these guys. She then went ahead and called me stupid and bimbo for not realizing this earlier. I instantly started tearing up because I know this isn't the place to confront Lillian because I didn't want to shatter my brother's happiness on such an important and happy day of his life, especially in front of so many guests. So I sat Lillian down after 2 days and I confronted her about everything she said. She starts crying and telling me how it was all due to the alcohol, how she knew she shouldn't have done all of what she did, and how she's going to come clean to my brother so that they can start couples counseling. The naive me thought that she was going to be true to her words and took her for it, but oh man, little did I know I was going to be screwed. Lillian turned my life upside down within the span of days. So she started off by telling my brother and Jeremy that I had cheated, creating fake screenshots and everything. Hell, she even went as far as to get one of my brother's friends, who she was sleeping with, into the story and get him to act as if he was the one who I had slept with. This led to a huge argument between Lillian, my brother Jeremy, and I, where I cried and begged, explaining them the entire situation, but no one budged. Both my brother and Jeremy sided with Lillian, calling me a psycho for creating false narratives. I knew Jeremy would side with Lillian because obviously he had slept with her. But the fact that my brother sided with her and went as far as to inform my family and friends of this situation, to turn them all against me, hurt the most. It was a horrible time in my life, and I spiraled down into a pit of depression. Well, around this time, I also found out I was pregnant with Jeremy's baby. Jeremy did not want to get a DNA test because obviously, being a floozy, there was no way the child would be his. I tried talking and begging my brother to let me talk to Jeremy and get him convinced to at least take a DNA test. He did not agree. So I decided to keep this baby and have been raising him since the past 12 years. I have had no contact with Jeremy, my brother, and Lillian, and honestly, I was glad because it took a lot of therapy to get over everything I had gone down. I guess my brother didn't even want me to have that kind of peace because yesterday, after 12 years, he reached out to me through Instagram saying he wanted to talk. After much hesitation and talking to my therapist, I decided to give him my number, and we spoke on the phone for the first time since then. Immediately, as I picked up the call, my brother started tearing up and apologizing, telling me how he should have listened to me because my Lillian indeed was a cheater. Apparently, all her lies have come out, and after being confronted, it is my brother who is on the streets. Well, after hearing this, I felt nothing. I just felt a sort of satisfaction that he got what he deserved after doing what he had done to me all those years back. He told me that he just wanted the chance to meet and talk. In a nutshell, he wanted to tell me all about Lillian and also asked me if he could come and live with me until he got his matter sorted. Although the offer about listening to all that went down in his life seemed tempting, I laughed at his face and told him to just sit and recall all that he had done to me all those years back. I told him that this was my thanks to him for that and just hung up. My phone has been blowing up since our last call with texts and calls from him. He keeps asking me for a chance to make everything right. Although I'm not interested, I do feel a little bad. So I asked a couple of my new friends for advice, and they all have been giving me mixed responses. So Reddit, AITA, what should I do here? So I decided to meet my brother today after reading all your suggestions. We met at a local restaurant, and seeing him for the first time made me realize how much he had changed. This man looked miserable. He looked like he had aged 2 times, even though he was about the same age as me. I guess that is what happens when you get married to a psychopath. Well, anyways, we sat down and he started to explain the entire situation. Apparently, he only found out about Lillian's cheating last year when she slept with his boss. Now, my brother has a great job, but seeing more gold with his boss, she knew she had enough of my brother. So she started to have this full-blown affair right in front of my brother. And when he confronted her, she just blew up at him and spilled out everything. She told him the truth behind what had happened during the time that caused him to cut me off. And the biggest shocker was the fact that she never slept with Jeremy. She said she has always wanted to, but the fact that he didn't want to sleep with her caused her to spread all these rumors. Hearing all this on top of finding out how many friends of his she slept with all these years caused him to file for a divorce. And wouldn't you all know, being a housewife for all these years entitled her to almost all of my brother's assets. This divorce has caused my brother to cut out all of his friends from his life, and currently, my family is mad at him for ruining his own marriage. So, my brother is here, living in hotels, and completely drained out his money due to the lengthy year long divorce. All until recently, when he contacted Jeremy and has started to live with him as a roommate. This is when he asked me if I would be interested to meet him and talk to him about everything that went down, to get a sort of closure. He said that this was the least he could do after putting me through so much. I told him I needed time to think about it. He simply just said that he understood and left. So I have another stress on my mind now. Would it be worth it to go and see Jeremy? I don't want to rekindle a relationship with him, but I would be lying if I said I had absolutely no feelings for him. So what should I do here? It's been a long 8 months since I last updated. I think some of you might be happy, while the others might be sad to know that I did go meet Jeremy. After talking to my therapist, who told me that it would be a good idea to get some closure, but she also warned me against getting instantly attached to him or expecting anything out of him. Well, that is exactly the rule that I followed when I first met him. It was so shocking to find out that he wasn't seeing anyone, just like I wasn't. We sat and caught up for hours, and eventually, even my brother joined us. We all came to the conclusion that we unfortunately were part of Lillian's manipulation, and that it will definitely take us a long time to process that, especially my brother. Jeremy asked me about my son, and I showed him a picture of him. He instantly teared up because the resemblance that the two had needed no DNA evidence, but I knew. After all that had gone down, I wasn't going to let my brother and Jeremy into mine and my son's life so quickly. I told them both the same, and they were very understanding of this. So Jeremy and I started to meet initially and simply just hang out together. Eventually, after a couple of months of time, we got a DNA test, which obviously came out positive, and I allowed him to see my son only as a friend. It was extremely amusing to see how quickly the two of them clicked. Jeremy and I have decided to let these small meetups go on for a while before we take the next step to draw out an official custody agreement. Eventually, I also allowed my brother to see my son, and needless to say, my son is very happy to be around these new people who care very much about him. As for Lillian, from what I heard through my brother, she has been trying to get in contact with him again, as apparently her affair partner is not really interested in her since he found out that she got divorced. My brother has obviously told her that she can go pound sand because he doesn't care about her at all anymore. Overall, I count this as a happy update. I'm not expecting anything this time and just hoping that the three of us can maintain a cordial relationship with each other. I knew karma would come and take its course, and I know that will be the case for Lillian too. It's just a matter of time, and I'm sitting here waiting for the same with a bucket of popcorn in my hands. LOL. Thank you all for reading. NTA, NTA, NTA. Never in a million years you would be the a-hole for just doing what your brother did to you years ago. Don't let yourself feel guilty over this because you truly owe him nothing. NTA, but I definitely want to go and meet him to see what he wants to tell me. Letting him into your house can be decided after that. Lillian seems like a narcissist and a psychopath, honestly, and I can't really blame your brother if he fell into this trap. Every day I get up at 5 a.m. for work. I do everything I can to be as quiet as physically possible to not wake my partner. Of course, it's not going to be perfect every time, but I'd say around 90% of the time, she doesn't wake up at all while I'm showering and getting ready, etc. She, on the other hand, can be flexible as to when she gets up and starts work. She works from home, and in her role, she doesn't have any direct superior to monitor her, or at least one that cares. Now, this woman is atrocious with punctuality and time management. She's always late to everything. She wakes up late almost every day, but as she's able to just log onto her laptop straight out of bed, she can just get away with it. The fact I have to get up early for work every day means that I really value a lie in on my days off. It's something I've always appreciated and taken pleasure in, sleeping until 9 or 10 a.m. when possible. We have no kids or any other responsibilities that would make this an impossible or otherwise irresponsible pleasure. I usually have weekends off, same as her, but due to the shift pattern I'm on, I sometimes have weekdays off, this week being Wednesday and Thursday. This morning, as usual, she woke up late for work. Actually, she woke up, made a cup of tea, sat on TikTok for a bit, and then had to rush around because she was late for work. This is regular behavior for her. She's now frantically rushing around trying to get ready, quite literally running around the house, in and out of rooms, up and down the stairs, banging doors and stomping around everywhere. Making it worse, she was also wearing flip-flops so I could hear them loudly slapping against her feet with every step. When she finally stopped darting around like a cat on heat, she came into the bedroom to use her makeup and toiletries. Every single can, bottle, brush, pencil, whatever gets slammed on the table. Some drop on the floor, hairspray and perfume being sprayed everywhere. This is the same woman who asks me to spray my deodorant outside of the room because it's loud and makes the room toxic. She then says she needs to use the hairdryer. I responded, "Oh, because you've been so quiet up until now." She just replied, "I don't care," and used the hairdryer twice. That is what really pissed me off, honestly. She clearly could just not at all give a crap in the slightest, and is what really gets under my skin and has annoyed the hell out of me. To me, it's just inconsiderate and shows the ugly side of her character and somewhat crappy attitude. So I angrily called her an inconsiderate wanker. She almost seemed a little confused and said that it was really uncalled for and that I'm overreacting. I wouldn't mind as much if this was a one-off or rare occurrence, but it isn't. While typing this, I do feel like I might have overreacted a bit, but it really aggravated me and made me wake up in a horrible mood. AITA for reacting poorly to this? Do I genuinely owe her an apology? This sounds like a much larger issue than sleeping in. If she has bad time management skills and is late to everything, this sounds like OP is feeling bad that he finally told her off and she's upset by it. OP, I'm not telling you to break up, but take some time to really think about if this is what you're willing to commit to forever with. NTA. I am a 24-year-old female and a new mom of a 3-month-old baby girl. My husband, 31, and I have rules that my family has to follow. The big rule is no social media rule. I believe in privacy for my daughter. I don't want any photos of my daughter on social media, especially when I didn't even post photos of her on social media. Don't get me wrong, I took many photos of her, but none are posted on social media. 3 weeks ago, I asked my sister-in-law, 35, to babysit my daughter because my grandmother got sick and landed her in the hospital in the next state over. Since there wasn't anyone under 2 years old allowed on the floor, so I couldn't take my daughter to see her. After a few days, I went on my Facebook and I saw my daughter's photo with the caption, "First Facebook photo of my niece. Is she adorable?" I saw red. I called her and demanded that she delete the photo and how she'll never babysit my daughter ever again. My husband and I went home. I picked up my daughter and she told me how dumb it was for having that rule. She told me how I don't love my daughter enough to post about her. We argued and my husband took us home. She made a huge post about not deleting the photo and how horrible I am as a mother. Lastly, called me an a-hole for yelling at her over a photo. My in-laws are on her side and telling me I'm overreacting. Now my husband is not speaking to his sister. Am I the a-hole and overreacted? She didn't babysit for free. I paid her $500 to babysit for 3 days. I didn't even finish day 2 before I saw my daughter's photo. I'll admit the stress of my grandmother in the hospital and the anger of her posting my daughter may cause me to yell. My husband got the photo deleted and we cut contact. My sister-in-law has been blowing up our phones ever since the last message. Absolutely NTA. She knew it was a rule, or she wouldn't have written first Facebook photo. This is a common rule, so you are not on your own. She just has no respect. Stand your ground here.